Hello, folks. I'm Andrew Milne, and you're all very welcome back to Talk from the Terrace podcast on Celtic Fanzine TV. Celtic Fanzine TV is brought to you by more than 90 minutes Celtic Fanzine, which first went on sale at Celtic Park 21 years ago. Thanks to everyone who bought the print edition of 122. It's now sold out, so thank you very much. And you can, if you still want to read it, you can still download the digital edition by visiting CelticFanzine.com. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode. And if you're a returning visitor, thank you for tuning in. This episode of Talk from the Terrace has been sponsored by Orange Skipper, and we thank Eugene Kavanagh for his continued support. On this episode of the show, we'll look back at Celtic's 3-1 defeat to Leipzig away in Germany, the 2-0 defeat at Celtic Park the other night, and we'll also look back at the late goal and the excitement in McDermott Park last Saturday, and look ahead to the Hibs game on Saturday. Once again, Matt McGlone, editor of the Alternative Views Celtic Fanzine, joins me to review and preview the games. Hello, Matt. How are you doing? Back again. It's been 3 games since we last chatted. What's your thought, firstly, on the late winner in McDermott Park and the wild celebrations that followed, not just inside the stadium, but in houses and clubs and pubs around the globe as Celtic fans went, it was so tense coming up to it, but by God, when that ball went in the back of the net,
it's funny because
unbelievable.
I was standing just behind the goal where they scored, and you could see it coming. You could see it coming the way the game was going. We were losing possession. We were careless in the passing. We just seemed to lose all the good ethics that Ange just put into the team, which is keeping in possession and retaining the ball. But when that went in, there was 4 of us all together, 5 of us all together, and we all turned to each other and went. And then they ran up the park. I mean, I've got to say, great play with James McCarthy. Really went for it to win that ball, got it up the wing onto Bernabeu, and what a lovely ball he put in. I mean, if there's one guy you want on the end of that, it's Gio Kamakis, big, powerful player, ready to throw his body right in there. Funny, I noticed when James McCarthy came on, I think they had a free kick, and just where I was standing, I saw him coming on. He was telling Bernabeu where to stand at the free kick, and he was organising players around about him. And I thought, that's what we should be getting. A player who hasn't played, who isn't worried coming on and thinking, well, these guys have been playing the whole game. Who am I to tell to get into position and start bossing around? But he did it. He used his experience, and I sensed a different attitude from James McCarthy, although he was only on for a short time. And I would have hesitated if Ange had played him the other night there. I think we could have done with somebody like that in midfield on Tuesday. I'm not a big fan of the 2 in midfield.
Yeah, you mentioned Tuesday there, Matt. But just before we get on to it, Germany away, a wonderful trip for the fans, a low-key police presence, a great weather, great session in the square that day, no trouble, great fun. And then the fans even in the stadium at full time, even though we didn't get the result, the backing they gave the team at full time, and 4 of the players actually stood on for longer than the rest, just in awe of the support that the fans were giving them. So, yeah, your thoughts back on Germany?
Sorry?
Your thoughts back on to visit the Germany?
My thoughts on the German game. Well, again, it's the same old movie, missed chances. We could have scored a couple of goals before they did. I thought we played well. There is that extra something you need in the Champions League. And although we're a very good team, we don't actually have that just now. It's just that extra touch of quality. You can't go missing chances and expect to get anything from the game. I was talking to Frank McGarvey the other day there, and I said, you were a forward. You never get stage fright. And he reckons, sometimes they seem to get that stage fright in front of goal, which is a strange situation. But I just don't understand why we can create so many chances. Creating chances is great, but as a supporter, watching them being missed is really frustrating. especially when the result goes against you. It's almost like, well, we had it there, we didn't finish it off. We couldn't put the icing on the cake by putting the ball in the net. And here we are, we've lost again. I mean, there's huge riches, just around about £1 million for a point in the Champions League, and about £3 million, just under 3 million for 3 points. So, these are very costly misses to teams from Scotland. Considering if you win the league, you're lucky if you get £3 million from Sky. So for winning one game, you can make a year's money. So the misses are costly, both financially and result-wise.
Yeah, and it seems to be the same old story, Matt. But another disappointing moment on the night was when Callum McGregor goes off injured. Callum's been an exceptional leader for us. He's been a great captain. Will be missed while he's out. But you mentioned James McCarthy there. When he came on, he has leadership qualities in that, but he doesn't. He's definitely not. He's definitely not in Andrew's plans in a starting role.
Well, it doesn't seem to be. But you mentioned, the captain there. And what a great captain he is. I've never understood the criticism of Callum McGregor. I just don't get it. I completely fail to understand it. The guy is a leader. He plays umpteen games for his country. He never misses a game for his country. Never misses a game for Celtic. Now he's got I wouldn't say it's a serious injury. Ange, I think, said maybe 4 to 6 weeks, which is, it's not the worst. But a true captain, great player, great inspiration in midfield, rallies other players around him, gets other players going. And he'll be sadly missed. But there, just as you mentioned there, James McCarthy, there's a space, I think, to be filled there. I'm not convinced on the two in midfield. Who am I to say? The manager knows everything about football compared to somebody like me. But, I just feel that, we have to bolster things up a wee bit, particularly in Europe, a bit open in Europe. I know Ange's philosophy, and I certainly wouldn't go against it. I just think if you leave yourself so open in Europe, particularly in midfield, you're giving the other team umpteen chances to create chances at the other end. And we saw that the other night.
Yeah, and again, the other night, Matt, the atmosphere before the game was fantastic. The minute silence was impeccably held, and the German fans were excellent as well, both in the backing of their team and for the minute silence. You'll never walk alone. It was one of them nights where, those 10 victims of the disaster were in your mind, and sometimes we take football so serious, but when something like that happens, and I happened to be speaking to someone from Donegal outside the ground, and it's a shock to us, but it's a massive shock when he drives by that garage on a regular basis, so to be in the stadium and to feel the kind of emotions that was especially within the big Donegal support that travels over so often, and indeed the Donegal diaspora in Glasgow. But, it is a football game. The football game kicks off, Matt. And again, as you said, it's the same old story. But it was only when I watched the highlights back, Matt, that I thought, we actually done better than I thought on the night when I was in the ground, because obviously the stuff you see. I sit in the main stand, but my mates sit behind the goal, and they were saying it was a Stonewall penalty. He was pulled back, Giamakis, at 1-0 down. Now at 1-0 down, Matt, if we get a penalty and we equalise, late in the game, 60,000 people be on their feet behind the team. Then it can be a game changer, and it can drive the team on. But we didn't get the penalty, and then they go up the other end of the pitch, and score within the next 5 minutes. So, it's small margins at this level, and we just can't keep missing these chances.
No, we can't. Just on your first point there about the horrible tragedy in Donegal. Fantastic to see the club make a huge donation financially to the appeal, and the supporters were just simply magnificent. The Celtic fans have been getting some hard press, when it suits the press and media to give us a bit of stick. The other night there showed you just what Celtic fans are all about. Full of love, compassion. They think of other people's situations. And, you couldn't not be touched by what happened in Donegal. And it was a lovely, warm moment, as you said there. Complete silence, and then, and the walk on before it. Just makes Celtic and its supporters a special club. I feel that when Celtic fans get criticised, it's very selective. You see stuff going on all the time, and it just seems to be give us a kick when the press and media feel like it, and that really annoys me. But I think the other night there, the Celtic support showed how magnificent they can be, and as they have done in the past, very charitable supporter, very charitable ethics. People who think about where they came from, they think about why the club was started, and they carry that on through today. As you said there a minute ago, the emotion of the whole thing was very touching. It really was. On the game itself, yeah, again, missed chances. Maeda, good header, should have scored. Kyogo had a good header, should have scored. There was various other chances. But, while you can miss these chances in Scotland, you just can't do it in Europe. There's almost like no second chance to make amends. And, I feel when I left the game, I was really disappointed. Walking down the road with my pal afterwards and with a pint and just sitting going over it again. I haven't watched it again since. But thinking back, you're right, we did play very well, but we made basic errors, letting the player get run away to make the second goal. You can't switch off for a second in Europe. You just can't. But Ange has said this, the fans have said it, we all say it. But like anything that's getting built, and Celtic are in rebuilding at the moment, and I would say that Ange is not even 20% way through his rebuilding stage. So for a team, say 20% into where Ange wants them, another 80% to go. If we remember where we came from last season, won the league, not unexpected, we probably thought when the manager was appointed. But as the season grew on, we grew with it. But Europe, it's a huge jump from the team rebuilding currently to try and expect us to maybe qualify. And I was talking about this afterwards. It's almost like some kind of illness that we have, that we expect Celtic to be better, and our expectations as a support are sometimes ridiculously high, myself included. And then so you feel a bit disappointed. But when you look at it, what we've done since Ange came in, rebuilding as a team, gelling a team, not a lot of young players there. Do we really expect to be progressing in the Champions League once we take away those high expectations that we've got? I think if we're being realistic, we probably don't. I think we have to walk a bit more before we can run.
Yeah, you're talking about building. He's 20% into building. His team, and getting results in the Champions League, Matt, is never easy. We landed under Brendan Rodgers. Back in Matt O'Neill's day, we 3 great home wins in the first campaign, 9 points, and didn't qualify. So and that was a good team, and that was a time when Premier League players were coming to Celtic rather than the opposite way around now. So it is a different playing pitch now financially when we're competing with the Bundesliga and the English Premier League and Spain and so forth. But 2 of those building blocks impressed me the other night again. The return of Carter Vickers, I thought he was excellent the other night. I thought he was a cool head. And I thought Joe Hart, once again, kept us in the game at times.
Yeah, absolutely. You could really see the difference in the defence, can't you, when Carter Vickers is playing? And I thought Big Jens, I thought he strolled it as well. He had a very good game. And, sometimes it's easy to sort of say, well, that player didn't play very well, that player didn't play very well. But I think we have to be careful of not making scapegoats out of our own players. And although we all say it at the game, the only thing that will make a player better is encouraging them, rather than criticising them. But football's a very emotive game, and you do get trigger-minded at the game, and you do say things that you maybe, wouldn't want to be saying half an hour later. But yeah, those big players that you're talking about did stand up. Joe made some great saves, particularly with his feet. He was spreading himself big time. And they're a very good side. Let's not forget that. Leipzig won't win it, but they're a very good team. And, there's just that extra quality in the Champions League. I think we have to just, I wouldn't say dampen down our enthusiasm, but maybe be a bit more realistic about our expectations of where we can go just now in the Champions League. Next year it will be different. Somebody made a very good point on Twitter the other night there. He said that, the way it's Celtic being built just now, we should maybe not expect many points, this current year. But maybe if we expect, say, 3 or 4 points out of the Champions League this year, we should maybe expect 5 or 6 next year, and maybe 5 or 6 the year after. I think that's a good way of looking at it, because you can see there's a progression in building there. Ange's got a plan, there's no doubt about it. And, he's not even a third of the way into that plan.
Yeah, it was like you talk about scapegoats, and, Maida was made the scapegoat after the game, and he didn't have a good game. He didn't, when you call a spade, but again, it's unfair to single out a player in one game. But there was a lot of criticism from fans. We got back to the hotel, and his name was constantly mentioned. But as well as that, there was a realism with the group of people I was with after the game, that we've come a long way, like you said, on the range. So we need to be maybe a bit more patient and a bit more realistic. You look at, Red Bull Leipzig, 2009 they were formed, and because of the money that's been invested in them, they've been to 2 semi-finals of the Champions League in that short time, which is unbelievable. So it just goes to show that the money in the game now, history. We can talk about a great history, but when they're up against these clubs, and there was a false sense as well of security when they got beaten by Shakhtar. We all thought, and then the performance we put in against Shakhtar was superb. Oh, well, we should have won the game in Warsaw. So maybe we believed, that we were further down the road than we actually were, and maybe now we're coming back down to the realism that we've a long way to go. And probably the game fell at a bad time as well, Pat, because because I've had a pack of them.
Forgot where you were there. Cut.
But, when I don't even know where I am now in the conversation. But
you're talking about the quality of Red Bull and our expectations.
Yeah, and our expectations are, as usual, they're so high, and when we go away, because we love the club, we believe in it so much. But the other night, one thing that everyone buys their ticket and they're entitled to leave when they want, but the mass exodus out of the stadium after the second goal, Matt, was disappointing, because at the end of the day, when the players were taking their applause, these are players that are taking their applause for getting to the Champions League. I think last year, if someone said you're going to have 3 nights in the Champions League at Celtic Park next year, we would have thought twice about it. And at the end of the game, there was probably 20,000 people left in the stadium. The 2 groups of ultras were still there singing, but the exodus was, people are slagging off the Sevco for last night for the 7-1 hammering they took from Liverpool when the fans were leaving the ground. But I think we need to take a look at ourselves as well.
Well, first of all, get back to what you started off there with Leipzig, 3 years older than Rangers, formed in 2009, built on money. It's a fact, isn't it? They're built on money, and they have so much money that they don't really have a history. I mean, I don't know what their songs are, but their songs must be like, obviously within the last 14 years, last 13 years, up against us who have got a fantastic history. I just think that I'm not for criticising fans for leaving early, because I think, who am I to sort of say when you stay and when you don't stay? You pay your money and you decide what you're going to do. So that's the way I look at that. What I would say is that we're all very emotive people as football fans. You spoke there about expectations, and we have at times, it's almost like a mental illness. We have unrealistic expectations of where we are. We get swept along in where we could be. I think that's what we do. We get swept along where we think we should be. But if we look at the hard facts of what we have and where we're built from and what they have and how long they've been going and how much money they've got, there's a big gap in between there. But as football fans, we don't think realistically, 24/7. We have spells of thinking realistically. We have spells of understanding expectations. But overall, we're pretty drunk on how good we are. And we all do it. I think it's part and parcel of being a football fan that you take on that side. So therefore, we hear all the stuff after the game about this player and that player. I don't like scapegoating. I know who didn't play well the other night. I know who played well. But the only way to make a player play better if he's off form is to encourage them. Encouragement in life gets the best out of everybody. You put people down, you don't get anything positive from them at all. And that works in football as well. So, I think we just have to suck it up and see this season. I hate that phrase, learning curve, but it has been it's an overused phrase, but it is a learning curve. And people don't like to keep hearing it said all the time, because you said that 6 weeks ago, you said that 2 years ago. How long does this learning curve last for? Well, a learning curve lasts the length of every single different manager's tenure, because when a manager comes in, he generally keeps what he wants and gets rid of the rest from a previous management. Ange has kept very little. So again, his learning curve is the length of time he's been here, and he can only build from that. We're a strong team in Scotland. We will recover our form in Scotland. I'm pretty sure of that. The support will be rousing the team again on Saturday against Hibs, and we have to look at just now. I remember saying on this programme last year that several times I felt that European football last year was an interruption, because I felt we had to get the basics right in Scotland and get a team for Scotland right. So I suppose this year's a wee bit of an extension from that. I'm absolutely delighted to be in the Champions League like every other fan. But again, it's all about expectations, isn't it? It's all about where we are and, what we think. And when you get in anything in life, when you get really built up for something and that something doesn't happen, then you do get naturally disappointed. And I think that's the thing that we all carry as a football fan. We have unrealistic expectations. And it's only when, you calm down, maybe look back again and say, what if that went in, or what if he had been pushed there, or what if he'd been 6 inches taller and he got header to that. It's all ifs and buts. But, I'd rather take the position we're in just now than any position we've been in the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, you mentioned Hibs, Matt, and it's funny, we also spoke about expectations, and I listened to a podcast with Scott from the Homeboys. He does one with an away fan, an opposition fan, and a while back I listened to one with Hibs. I think it was last season. Can't think of the Hibs fan's name. But he was saying that his expectation every year for Hibs, as a Hibs fan, before when he buys a season book, is for Hibs to win the league. He says he said even though it's unrealistic, he said, you still have to believe that your team has a chance. Now they've had a good season so far. They're sitting in third. They come to Parkhead or Celtic Park or Paradise, whatever people want to call it, on Saturday. I think the 5 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws. Those 2 draws coming against the Rangers and their cousins in Edinburgh. But they lost on Tuesday night in the games that were cancelled a few weeks ago. That they got to replay theirs early enough. So they were beaten away to Dundee United. So, where are they, Matt? Where are Hibs now? And like, will they be confident coming because we haven't been as, I suppose, fluent in front of goals as we have been?
Well, to go back to the original point there, yeah, it must be strange supporting a provincial team, because all my life supporting Celtic, and yours also, you're always thinking you're in with a shout to win the league, aren't you? You're always thinking we should win the league. And if you don't win the league, you think that Rangers are going to win the league. But imagine supporting maybe Hibs or Hearts or Aberdeen or some of these teams, knowing when you buy your season ticket that you're not going to win the league. There is no hope of you winning the league. So, that's a particular mindset. And it's fair dedication to provincial fans of clubs who still support their team, knowing that the best they're going to get is maybe a cup. They'll maybe win a Scottish Cup or the League Cup. As far as Saturday goes, you just have to look at Celtic's pool and say, in every position we've got better players. So I feel very confident. Hibs, to me, are coming and we're going to beat them. I don't see Hibs having anything that will beat us unless we play terribly badly, unless we're really off form, unless this catalogue of chances we're missing carries on and it just gets too extreme that we miss too many chances. But Hibs on Saturday, I think it's sitting third at the moment, aren't they?
Yep.
So, they're obviously better than what they were last year. But if I'd be quite honest, sitting here just now, I don't really look at other teams' players, but I'd probably be struggling to tell you more than 4 or 5 Hibs players. Then there's Portes, who's getting slaughtered by a lot of fans from a lot of clubs for the way he's been playing. And he had one good game for Scotland, and all of a sudden he's the best thing out. He's a young boy, raw, and people are saying, would Celtic go for him? Celtic's a big club, big step up for somebody like that. And, we will have the choice of who we're going to bring in January. But he is a good player. There's no doubt about it. But again, realistic expectations here. Before the game he played for Scotland a few weeks back there, he wasn't rated in MD's sort of horizon. A good player all the same.
Well, hopefully, Matt, we'll get the 3 points. I think the game is sold out, as far as I know. As the Motherwell game was, the demand now for tickets. We've a lot of season books in our club, and even the demand, Matt, on top of that for paper tickets is it's unbelievable. So it is the demand now, and I'm not just saying the usual suspects coming in for the big games. This is for any game now to go to see Celtic. So Andrew certainly brought, I suppose, a wider interest for casual fans to get back to Celtic Park and to enjoy the journey. Matt, we heard the news late last week. I'd recorded a podcast with Tommy Sheridan, and we spoke about Frank McGarvey. And now we've had the word that Frank is battling cancer. A great character. I'm sure you've had him in the alternative view. I've done a couple of Celtic AMs with him, and always entertaining, always good fun, always reliable, always turned up. Matt, we spoke about Johnstone, on the podcast recently, which Frank was before my time at Celtic, but not before yours. You have to have some, good memories about Frank.
Well, I've got some great memories of Frank. Frank's actually a mate. He's a pal, and I've been in touch with him since his diagnosis, and it is very sad. On the pitch, Frank was a wee warrior. he never gave a defender a minute's peace. And the great goal he scored in the 1985 Cup final when Roy Aitken ran down the wing and chipped it over and Frank headed it in. One day, Frank and I were out and I said to him, I'll never forget that goal. Frank was just talking about football. And he said to me, Matt, I never scored that goal. He said, God scored that goal. And I've always remembered that moment when he said that, because I thought it was such a wonderful goal and such a great height for a player of Frank's. Frank's not a tall guy, he was wiry, but he's not the tallest. And a great height to get up for that goal. And then as he ran away and he fell to his knees towards the main stand, wonderful. But I've travelled. I'm in Frank's book, and there's a couple of good stories there. And I've travelled around with him. We've been to Vegas at least twice together. And I have to tell you a funny story. It wasn't funny at the time. We were sitting on the plane, and there was Frank and myself and his daughter Jennifer. And Frank and I had been invited over to the convention. As you know, the sports clubs sort out people coming over there. And Frank had said to me, could you ask the organisers if I could bring my daughter? And Frank would sort it out, the plane situation once I got over there. I said, yeah. So Jenny, I think Jenny was about 14 at the time. And we're sitting on the plane. We were an hour out of Vegas. It was Glasgow to Schiphol and Schiphol to... Sorry, it wasn't Vegas. It was San Francisco, Los Angeles we went to. We're about an hour out of Los Angeles. And they come round with the green card and you mark on it, what you're here for. Is it business or pleasure? And, you carrying any products into the country like fruit and seeds and nuts and things like that, So Frank doesn't tick the box, business or pleasure. And the girl comes back up, hands the cards in. I'm not watching what he's doing, but she comes back and says, Mr. McGarvey, he goes like that. You have to tick business or pleasure. And he goes into his wee chat. And the upshot of the chat was that Frank was over there on pleasure because he was over to do Vegas thing. But him and I were also doing question and answer roadshows in Vegas and in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Celtic Sports Club. So he said to me, Matt, this isn't business or pleasure. It's business and pleasure. And I says, listen, just fill the box in. There's a few expletives thrown in there. I said, just fill the box in. Well, just any box, pick a box, any box, just tick the box. So he was being a bit pedantic about ticking the box. The girl came back looking for the card to be ticked. And Frank said, he was joking, but he said, we're actually going over with business and pleasure, etc. And she'd had enough by this point, and she says, I'll tell you what, if you don't tick one of those boxes, your entire party are on the next flight back to Schiphol in Holland. And I just took the card out of his hand. Can't remember, I ticked one of the boxes, he says, there you are, with a wee bit of a set to there. And then, because the thought of us, being in the air for 10 hours from Holland to Los Angeles and being an hour away from Los Angeles and then flying back again just wasn't on my radar. But Frank's he's a great person. He's a fantastic storyteller. He's had his life, the way his life's been, and I was quite upset actually when I heard the news. And I'm going to go and see him very shortly. And he's, I can just wish him all the best in his fight here, because if there's one guy who can really, take something on and say I'm going to battle this, it's wee Frank. He's great strength of mind, Frank, great spirit about him. And, just I hope God's with him.
Yeah, man, and we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap up the conversation now. Lovely words, and we wish Frank and his family and his friends all the best for the battle. And Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, Matt, and we'll speak again maybe next week. Thanks very much for your time, as always.
Right. Cheers.
Once again, folks, thank you so much for watching the show. Thanks to Matt McGlone for joining me. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do so, and you'll never miss an episode. Once again, thanks to Eugene Kavanagh and the boys at Orange Schiphol for the continued support and the sponsorship of this episode of the podcast. Our next live show will take place in November. We're in Dublin and Waterford. John Hartson will be our special guest on Friday the 11th when we are in Paddock Browns in Dublin. And tickets are available on Eventbrite or by dropping into the pub. And on Saturday the 12th, we'll be down in the Rue Glen Hotel once again as guests of the Portlarg Emerald CSC. And joining myself and John will be Lisbon Lion John Fallon. And tickets for that one can be got from Pat or any of the members. And you can contact Portlarg Emerald through social media. Or if you can't get them, you can DM us here and we'll put you in contact with Pat and he'll be able to sort you out with some tickets. That's a dinner show that night and there's music. And there's also music as well in Paddock Brown. So 2 good nights to look forward to. Thanks to everyone, as I said earlier, for purchasing More Than 90 Minutes print edition 122. We're currently working on issue 123. I always love when a fanzine sells out. So if you want to get a copy of 123, make sure you order it when we put the pre-orders up on the website. You can still get the digital version of issue 122 if you still want to read it. And you can get that at our shop on CelticFanzine.com, where you'll also find subscription details, back issues, T-shirts, badges and scarves. And at CelticFanzine.com, you'll also find all our daily news and articles, all our audio Celtic Soul podcasts. And this week we have John Hartson on the show, and that goes out on Friday. Last week we had Tommy Sheridan, so both worth a listen. What else? Oh, yeah. The website also has all our Celtic Fanzine TV stuff, and we deliver free content across all our platforms in written, visual, and audio. And if you'd like to support us, you can do so by sponsoring us, subscribing, buying something from the shop, a fanzine or a T-shirt, becoming a member or donating for the price of a pint. And we thank you all for your support, not just now, not just through COVID, but for the past 21 years. We're back in Glasgow on Saturday for the Hibs game, and we'll be covering the Celtic fans' journey once again. So if you want to follow our journey across, you can follow us across social media or by visiting CelticFanzine.com. Hail, hail, folks. Enjoy the weekend.